Hey everybody, it's GobletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have the return of the Tinkerer's Cube Draft. For those who don't know, a Cube Draft is a special draft format where you are drafting from cards throughout the entirety of what's available on Magic Arena instead of just from one particular set. The cubes are designed to just put a bunch of cards that work well together into one draft format. You get a ton of powerful cards, way more rares and mythics and all of that than you would get drafting normally, and it's always a fun time. The Tinkerer's Cube in particular is designed for a lot of synergy, a lot of combos. Rather than just individually powerful cards, you want to draft a pretty synergistic strategy using a lot of cards that happen to work well together. So basically on any one of these pages, you could find at least one card that would be a really good example of a card that is just specifically, not obscenely powerful by itself, but really good when you get the synergies for it. As you can see here, here's a fantastic example. Revel in Riches, 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you create a treasure token, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. So if you're playing this card all by itself, it's going to be pretty difficult to win, but if you have quite a few other treasure-producing cards, then this might be a fun alternate win condition to draft around. And we do see on the same page, we see a Pitiless Plunderer, which does give you some treasure tokens. If we scroll through black, we'll see that that is a sub-theme of the color Grim Bounty here, making treasure as well. So there's a little bit of a token sub-theme with treasures and stuff like that, and just a lot of different random synergies like that. As always, for the cube drafts, if you want to take a look at the whole card pool yourself, you can do so from the event menu to take a good look through all of that, see what synergies might be available before you hop into a draft. But myself here, I just want to get right into the action, so let's go ahead and hop into our first Tinkerer's Cube draft of the September 2021 Tinkerer's Cube, and it is going to be quite different this time around. We have cards from the new Jumpstart Historic Horizons set, the Modern Horizons cards that brought with it, as well as cards from like Dungeons and Dragons that weren't around the last time we had a Tinkerer's Cube, so a quite different Tinkerer's Cube draft experience this time around, and I'm excited to see how it plays out here. So let's see what we have in our opening pack. Definitely some really fun synergistic build-arounds already in the red cards here. Brash Taunter, an indestructible 1/1 that deals damage to your opponent every time it is dealt damage, and then Star of Extinction, which does 20 damage to each creatures and Planeswalker. So I could take one of these two and hope to wheel the other one and go for that kind of synergy there, which would be really fun if we can draw those two cards together. Brash Taunter is also just a really fun card to build around in general if we have other synergies to work with it. So definitely liking the red cards in that pack. We do see Blessed Spirits here. White-green Enchantress is a strategy in this cube for sure. A lot of new powerful Enchantress cards from Jumpstart Historic Horizons have been added to Arena, so I'm sure there are some of those in here. We do see Nessian Wanderer in green, which also does stuff when we're playing enchantments, so it looks like a good strategy there. Green-white enchantments. Just individually powerful cards here, like Divide by Zero is just great interaction at instant speed, and you do get to learn a lesson. But I think I'm just going to roll with Brash Taunter. It's a pretty fun card that I haven't gotten to play with as much as I would like, being someone that pretty much exclusively drafts. I have not played any of the crazy random Brash Taunter constructed decks that people have tried a few times around. So let's see what we have in the next pack here. I guess we could go for a little bit of a goblin theme here with Beetleback Chief, creating a few goblin tokens. I know that Siege Gang Commander's in the cube, as well as the 2-mana uncommon goblin from the Dungeons & Dragons set. So there's a few goblin tribal cards for sure, and that would get us started with 2 goblins right off the bat. Both cards also just being good, powerful red cards, the Chief and the Taunter. So we could roll with that here. Other than that, again, there are a lot of learn cards and lesson cards in the cube, so you can definitely get your value off of learning for your lessons from your sideboard, like you could in Strixhaven Draft, which is interesting. We haven't really seen that running around a lot in the cube before. Planeswalkers are always good, like Lolth here, but I think I'm going to stick to what we have so far. Just go mono red goblins for now. until we see something great in another color. And there we go, Siege Gang Commander. Ask and you shall receive. Looks like I just got really lucky on that third pick there. Siege Gang Commander, of course, being a very powerful goblin payoff card. 5 mana for a 2/2, but it comes in with 3 1/1 goblins, and you can spend 2 mana, sacrifice a goblin, do 2 damage to any target. So even by itself, it's quite good. But when you have other goblins, especially other goblins that make tokens like the Beetleback Chief, it's going to be even better. So we are right off to the races with a goblin tribal deck here. So, ooh, red-black sacrifice could be good for us here. We see Mayhem Devil. 1 a black and a red for a 3/3. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, you get to deal 1 damage to any target. We already have Siege Gang Commander being sort of a sacrifice card for a red-black deck, and in red-black in general, it should be pretty easy to get a few sacrifice cards, and Mayhem Devil's a really powerful payoff for those sorts of strategies, chipping away at your opponent's life total or at their smaller creatures while you're sacrificing cards. So I do like Mayhem Devil a lot there. We could also go for just like mono red aggro and take the Skewer the Critics here. Just sticking to one color, just taking as many aggressive cheap cards as possible. That's certainly an option out of the pack as well. Or we could even take Skewer the Critics and not really be planting our feet on the ground here. Just be like, all right, we're red. We're still open to a second color. This is just a fine red card. But that would definitely be the best place for it. The maximum hopes and dreams would be take Skewer and be mono red. But I'm going to go with Mayhem Devil here. I like Rakdos Sacrifice a good amount, and Mayhem Devil's just about the strongest payoff you can get for that strategy. And here I'll just take a Dragon Skull Summit, get some mana fixing in here, and have a pretty good time. There's not a lot of removal in the cube because they want everybody's deck to be able to go off and do absurd things without just always getting removed. So Mire's Grasp is definitely a higher pick than it looks like it would be. Like, this looks like just really bad removal in terms of what a cube should be capable of having. You should be able to just have like 1 in a black, destroy target creature, Doomblade type removal spells. But this cube is going to have a lot of weaker removal spells like Mire's Grasp instead to make sure that people get to do their fun stuff. So Mire's Grasp could also be an option there for sure. So what do we have here? Strike It Rich. I wonder if there's any Storm in the cube. This is a little weird to me. Just a card that makes 1 or 2 treasure tokens depending on whether or not you flashback it. So 1 treasure, and then once you flashback it, 1 more treasure. I guess like Black, Red, Revel, and Riches going real deep there could be a thing. Goldvein Pick also makes treasures. Nettlecyst's fun if you have a lot of artifacts or enchantments, but we're really unlikely to have either in red-black here. Could take a Harvester of Souls, I guess, if we get a lot of non-token creatures that can like come back from the grave as we're sacrificing them. That could be a pretty good card draw engine. It is a lot of mana, but I expect that the Tinkerer's Cube is definitely going to be a bit slower than the regular cube as well. And when there's less removal in the cube, you're more open to playing the big 6 mana cards because they're just a little bit less likely to immediately die when you cast them, as they would be in a normal cube. So I kind of like just taking the blue-red pathway here. Leave us open to splashing in some blue if we want. Because I don't feel that any of these off-color cards are strong enough for me to want to jump onto another color here. Yeah, we'll just take one of the dual lands. I mean, we could take Stomping Ground. Also, we could take either of those dual lands, really. Depending on if we think it's more likely we'll be splashing blue or green, and I guess seeing this pack would have been nice to take the Stomping Grounds here. But again, none of these green cards are all that splashable. They're okay. I guess Woodland Champion would combo pretty well with Siege Gang Commander and Beetleback Chief. Yeah, this works really well with any token production, so we could take that. Could also take Thriving Grove, but that's a dual land that has green and then whatever the second color you want is. I'd probably take the Thriving Land if it was the red or black Thriving Land, but since it's not, I'll just take the random green card, see if we end up splashing it. So Makeshift Munitions is going to work really well with these token producers, Beetleback Chief and Siege Gang Commander, as well as with Mayhem Devil. getting those triggers as we're sacrificing cards. And Makeshift Munitions also works super well if we get any treasure token producers. This could be a really good card in this cube. Other than that, Rimrock Knight would be super good if we were just drafting that mono red deck. Had we taken the Skewer the Critics, I think we'd be well off to the races with just mono red aggro here. But we are drafting one of the like 2-color synergy decks here, so doing a little more of what you're supposed to do in the cube rather than what I tend to enjoy doing in every cube ever. So we are getting more sacrifice effects like Witch's Cauldron now. Could have Forsworn Paladin making a bunch of treasures for us to use with our munitions. That could be cool. Or Deadly Dispute, sacrifice 1 thing, draw 2, get a treasure. Either of these are pretty good for this strategy. I'm going to go for Forsworn Paladin there, simply because I think that with Makeshift Munitions, it seems really fun to me. The Forsworn Paladin constantly creating those treasure tokens and then the munitions shooting things with them. Definitely seems very cool. Take Illuminate History here. We have a lesson now if we take any cards that can learn. There are, as we've seen throughout the packs, quite a few learn and lesson cards. All right, and here we get another card that is perfect for our strategy, Havoc Jester. It is the 5-mana 5/5 version of Mayhem Devil. 5 mana for a 5/5. Whenever we sacrifice a permanent, we deal 1 to any target. Pretty perfect here. What would we like to wheel out of this pack? What would we like to see come back to us? Probably just an Ox, being just a decent card in any red deck with nice recursion in the late game. I suppose we did pick up a Doomed Necromancer near the end of the first pack, so we do have 1 reanimation spell. And having any reanimate spells works absolutely fantastically with Space Godzilla here, because Space Godzilla can cycle itself, get itself into the graveyard for only 3 mana. Then you can, of course, reanimate it early to just have a giant 8/8 on the board, so that could be pretty cool. Seasoned Pyromancer. This is one of the new Jumpstart Historic Horizons cards. 3 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, discard 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. For each non-land card discarded this way, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. This seems absolutely excellent for Rakdos Sacrifice. 3 mana for a 2/2 that comes with 2 1/1s. We'll have to discard real cards to do that. We'll have to discard non-land cards to do that, but we're drawing cards to replace whatever we discarded. Plus, you can exile this from the graveyard to get 2 more elementals. This seems wonderful. Seasoned Pyromancer seems like a great pickup for us here. Sedgemoor Witch, of course, would be great as well, giving us 1/1 pests whenever we cast instants and sorceries. But I'm going to try out the new hotness here, the Seasoned Pyromancer that just got added to Arena. Now, Direfleet Hoarder could be interesting. A nice little piece of sacrificial fodder. Because when it dies, we get a treasure token, so with a card like Makeshift Munitions, it's 2 separate cards to sacrifice for us. Warfire Javelinier's fine if we have a lot of instants and sorceries, but we don't really. We actually don't have any instants or sorceries yet, just a bunch of creatures, an enchantment and an artifact. So that's not going to work great. Heartfire Immolator's solid because it is a removal spell. And I suppose we don't have any removal yet. This can't kill everything, just like Mire's Grasp could only do -3/-3. This can only do 2 damage or maybe 3 damage if you got a prowess trigger, but still good to have some interaction in here, so I kind of like taking Heartfire Immolator. We'd like to wheel Direfleet Hoarder, and I don't think it's that unlikely because that card looks pretty unappealing to most decks. We just happen to have a good use for the treasure token and the creature. So I suppose here we're taking Yahenni's Expertise. Just a little Wrath effect. It's not really good for us because it's going to kill everything we have on the board most of the time. I guess we actually have some big stuff. We have a couple 5/5s, but most of the time it's a lot of 2/2s and 1/1s in our deck. But we can just not cast it anytime we have a bunch of stuff on board, and anytime our opponent does, then we do cast it. This might end up just in the sideboard as well, but I don't think anything else here is great for our deck. It's the only card in just black or red. We could take like a red-green temple to help splash here, or a Hall of Oracles banking on picking up a lot of instants and sorceries. But we don't have a lot right now, so kind of okay with where we're at here. We do have the pair of goblins for Goblin Tribal, but we're definitely leaning more into just general Rakdos sacrifice stuff, where Blood Artist is going to be just an absolutely fantastic card. A 0/1, and now whenever any of our creatures dies, actually even when our opponent's creatures die, this is going to drain our opponent for a life. The triggers on this card can stack up really quickly and be a huge swing in life totals, so Blood Artist is always an excellent card. So I am going to take it over the pair of goblins there, even though we do have some of that Goblin Tribal. I could take a Hobgoblin Captain here because it is a goblin, or I could take Mask of Immolation as another sacrifice card. Bone Splitter as an aggro card, Thwart the Grave for a Reanimator spell. All four of these cards I think would be pretty good. Mask of Immolation does make the most sense, but I do like the idea of having a ton of goblins. I'm going to roll with the Mask of Immolation here. We'll play it safe there. Den of the Bugbear's nice, because anytime we're mana flooded, we can use this to spit out a goblin token and attack with a 3/2. Which is nice, gives us some more sacrificial fodder. Kazul's Fury is another card we can use to sacrifice stuff, but it's a one-time deal. We would much prefer cards that we can use over and over, like all of our other sack outlets. I guess Gorman's pretty good in the sky, but I'm going to take the Den of the Bugbear here. I'm just a very big fan of having lands that you can turn into creatures in the late game. Bloodbraid Marauder. 2 mana for a 3/1, can't block, but it has Cascade as long as there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, so it always cascades for a 1 mana card. I mean, I guess it's between that and like Dragster or Savvy Hunter, so we might as well take Marauder. Like, it's either taking the green-black card to maybe splash in, or just taking the mediocre card over there. Just take the Marauder and see if, I don't know, see if we ever hit Delirium. Could be fun. This pack has nothing for us. It feels really weird to have a Sabertooth Mauler in a cube, but I guess for like green-black morbid, trying to get creatures to die every turn. Oh, we actually love Terramorphic Expanse in this deck. Feign Death would also be okay, as well as Conspiracy Theorist, but Terramorphic Expanse, the idea of having a land that anytime we have a Mayhem Devil or Havoc Gesture out also just does a damage to something is just, I don't know, it's just a really fun synergy. I always have a good time doing that, so. I'm not going to main deck this, am I? Probably not. I'm probably not playing any of these. I'll take the Enchanted Carriage because, I don't know, it makes a couple tokens for us, and then it's pretty easy to crew as a 4/4. It's possible we play it, but probably not playing anything out of that pack. Probably nothing out of this pack. Maybe, yeah, if we get anything that learns, Pest Summoning is one of the best lessons for us. Grabbing a couple 1/1s that are really nice to sacrifice because we do gain a life when we sacrifice them. And, well, here we go. Could just take Poet's Quill here, because now we got the lesson that works well for our deck, getting some sacrifice fodder, and here's just a powerful card that will learn. That being said, there are 2 other cards here that I think are also excellent for us. Young Pyromancer, just the idea of spitting out a bunch of elemental tokens is great, but we don't have a lot of instants and sorceries. We have 1 sorcery in the deck right now, so we're not spitting out a lot with Young Pyromancer. And the other card is Soulseer. This is just excellent removal in terms of the amount of removal in this cube, where it's pretty low on removal and most of the removal can't kill a lot of things. This is a pretty cheap instant speed removal spell that can kill most cards, so I do really like Soulseer. I think I'm going to take Soulseer here. I would love to wheel the Poet's Quill. Don't think that's super likely, but I like taking the excellent removal when it's available, which is not particularly often. So here we do have Falkenrath Noble, which is the flying version of the Blood Artist. Just an incredible ability for a sacrifice deck. For, as it's called, an aristocrat's deck, quote-unquote. Definitely like the Noble here. Mazemind Tome's solid card draw, that could be an option. Lightning Spears. See, like, this is the quality of removal you tend to see. So seeing a removal spell like Soulseer is just like, you just gotta snap that up when you see it, if you want good removal. Yeah, Lightning Spear is not very good. Aerialist is good for life gain decks, but we're not doing a lot of that. I'll just take the Falkenrath Noble there and be pretty happy about it. Blood Crypt would be pretty great for us, just an excellent land for us, great mana fixing. Archfiend of Ifnir, that's for cycling and discarding cards, we're not doing a lot of that. Grim Lavamancer could be solid. Late game turns into a way to just keep shredding your opponent's smaller creatures or finishing off their life total. Dwarven Hammer's okay. Malefic Scythe could be good for us. Kind of like Foulmire Knight better, to be honest. Just a little cheap creature to get out and sacrifice, plus it draws cards by itself. The Malefic Scythe, I can't say that word. Malefic Scythe is like, eventually over time it's going to become just a really, really big equipment, but if we're able to just keep sacrificing things that are equipped with the Scythe anyway, we're hopefully just getting enough damage in from just like sacrifice triggers. So we have Fiery Temper for excellent cheap removal, Reaper's Talisman for just a really aggressive, powerful card here. It's great with a bunch of 1/1 tokens as well. And then Slaughter Priest, which just makes a lot of sense for us. Actually, this pack is really good. I like the Temper, the Slaughter Priest, and the Reaper's Talisman. I'm going to go with Reaper's Talisman there. Maybe I've been drafting too much D&D recently, and I'm overvaluing this card just because of how good it is in that draft format. But I think with a lot of like 1/1s, this turns all of your 1/1s into just really annoying threats that can close out a game. Because like, if they don't block the 1/1, they're just getting drained for life every turn, and if they do block it, it's got Death Touch, so it's trading up. This card has been so good. I do really like the good removal like on Licensed Disintegration here, but Kalane would be pretty fun. But I think we just don't have a million treasure cards here. We've got a lot of good sacrifice, but not a lot of treasure. So I'll go with just the great removal spell there, the Unlicensed Disintegration. So here I'll probably take another creature land, the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and then we actually got both of them. We got the Den of the Bugbear and the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, which is great. Again, we have 3 total instants or sorceries, so as good as Goblin Dark Dwellers tends to be usually, don't think it's that great here. There was another sacrifice outlet there, the black card in that pack, but I think we're doing pretty good on sacrifice outlets. And we have... we've pretty much got a full deck of all good cards here, so unless something is on colors and excellent, probably not going to take it over just a great land like Hive of the Eye Tyrant. And here we do have something on colors and excellent. Orcus, Prince of Undeath, just an absolute bomb card. 4 mana for a 5/3 flying trample is the bare minimum that this does, and this will often bring a bunch of cards back from your graveyard or wipe the whole board. Bunch of great ways to use that. Kind of like Putrid Goblin here, it persists, so it's like 2 sacrifice outlets in one. Or we have the decent cheap removal, Unholy Heat. Take the Putrid Goblin there, but maybe it's Unholy Heat. That's another one of the new removal spells I don't have a lot of experience with, so I don't know how good it is. Looks like generally a moderately weaker shock most of the time. I guess I'll take like a Vorpal Sword here. I don't think I'm playing anything out of this pack or this pack. We're probably just cutting everything we get from now on, like usual. Ooh, but that Blood Crypt nice and late. We've got an excellent mana base in this deck. We have 2 dual lands, and we have both of the creature lands, and we have a Terramorphic Expanse. Excellent mana base for this deck. Alright, yeah, and we did also wheel another 2-drop creature, so I think... yeah, I would really have preferred the 1 mana removal than the Putrid Goblin here, because we did end up with quite a few creatures. 17 still. I guess 17's about average. But I could definitely see that Unholy Heat being pretty good. So let's see how our deck looks here. We only need to cut 2 cards, which is going to make things nice and easy. Probably cutting Yahenni's Expertise. Probably cutting Vorpal Sword. Just a pretty big mana commitment, even with the Equip 2 ability. Although I suppose with a bunch of 1/1s, giving your 1/1s Death Touch can be really annoying. But I definitely like the Talisman more. We only have 17 creatures here, so I don't want to cut a ton of creatures. I could see just cutting Vorpal Sword and Henny's Expertise, calling it a day. Let's see, what are the weakest creatures for us? Pretty much every creature in here makes a lot of sense, except for like Bloodbraid Marauder. That one's kind of just like, I don't know, aggressive curve, and if we draw it late where we do have Delirium, it is gonna cascade into something. We have 4 1-mana cards in the deck: Forsworn Paladin, Reaper's Talisman, Witch's Cauldron. They're all decent 1-mana cards as well to cascade into. Yeah, Marauder seems fine. Definitely seems fun, for sure. Ooh, Doomed Necromancer. That's a definite cut. We've got pretty much nothing that synergizes with Doomed Necromancer. There will be some corner cases where we cast a Seasoned Pyromancer that allows us to discard a couple cards and then, you know, discard our 1 5/5 or our other 5/5 here. So we have 2 5/5s in the deck. Discard one of these two and then reanimate it with Doomed Necromancer's effect, but I feel like that's going to be a general rarity. So Necromancer's probably just much too slow when we're not getting the full big swingy play out of it, like reanimating an 8/8 or something like that. So I'll cut the Doom Necromancer. But other than that, I think our creature base looks pretty good. We didn't actually get anything that combos particularly well with Brash Taunter, which is a little sad. But we'll probably be playing against a lot of opponents that just have big, dorky creatures anyway. I don't know, I definitely want to try it out a little bit, but we did not get the Star of Extinction to go with the Brash Taunter. As cool as that may have been. Alright, well, cut one more card. I guess we're cutting Expertise instead of the Vorpal Sword. And then this is kind of our deck. It's like a pretty great Rakdos Sacrifice deck here. Again, the mana base I'm just in love with. 2 dual lands, Terramorphic Expanse, and 2 creature lands. Alright, well, the classic Rakdos Sakdos deck. Sacrificing a lot of tokens for good value. Drawing cards with our Witch's Cauldron. Dealing damage with our makeshift munitions. Some pretty good stuff here. And I'm very excited to see what our opponents are playing, because Rakdos Sakdos is as good as it is, as fun as it is to play. It is the kind of strategy that we have seen many times in the past, so it's not particularly new to this cube or anything. So I'm going to hold off on my Foulmire Knight to make sure that I am drawing a card off of the Profane Insight. Just play a Mountain there. Our Dragonskull Summit will come in untapped. If we control a Swamper Mountain, so we can just play that turn 2. Start things off with our 2-drop Putrid Goblin, 2/2, that will come back with a -1/-1 counter when it dies. Too stupid to survive, but too dumb to die. So our opponent starts with Sedgemoor Witch. A 3/2 that has Ward 3, so it costs 3 more to target it, menace, and it also creates pests every time they cast an instant or sorcery. So that's a bit of a bummer. We could Soul Sear it if we pay a few life. I kind of like killing that before they get any tokens out of it. So we'll attack with Putrid Goblin first. Maybe they'll block. It's incredibly unlikely. But if they do, we would rather trade that way than trade with our removal spell. Alright. Well, let's go ahead and pay the life and just get that off the board before they make any 1/1 pests. So we are playing against a 3-color deck here. Blue, white, and black. And there's a Watery Grave from our opponent. An Elite Guard Mage. Excellent value here. A 4-mana 2/3 flyer. They gain 3 life and draw a card when they play it. That does wall off our attacks now. A 2/2 is not going to attack well into a 2/3. We could play a 2/2 and a couple 1/1s or just draw a card here. Our Chief isn't going to impact the board really at all against a 2/3, so let's just draw a card and see what we hit. Another land here. Well, Bit of a bummer. Actually just going to play the Blood Crypt tapped here rather than pay the 2 life to cast the Foulmire Knight. I suppose I should have just played the Mountain before casting Profane Insight so that I know I get to cast Foulmire Knight without paying any life. But Foulmire Knight doesn't really affect the board either. Alright. They do attack in, and then they cast Ephemerate to untap it to hold it up as a blocker. So this is going to be a deck using some flicker effects with good enter the battlefield effects. That is always going to be a great time for our opponent. So the Ephemerate here basically is allowing them to draw 2 extra cards and gain 2 extra life, as well as untap their flyer after that attack. So Ephemerate, really nice card here with that rebound to get maximum value. So I could play a 5-drop like a Taunter or a Havoc Jester. Havoc Jester would start attacking in pretty well. Otherwise I'm casting Falconwrath Noble and Foulmire Knight. The Knight could attack in decently, but the Noble's not really going to do anything. Sure, let's cast a Havoc Jester here. Hopefully that can start swinging in the future. Here's the rebound on the Ephemerate to gain some more life, draw another card. But at least since it does rebound in the upkeep, the Elite Guard Mage is going to be summoning sick throughout this turn, so we're not getting hit by it again. Oof, Vona, Butcher of Magan here. 4/4 Vigilance and Lifelink, and they can pay 7, tap it, and destroy a non-land permanent. They have more than enough life to just start doing that every turn. We do draw a removal spell, though, Unlicensed Disintegration to get that off the board before they can use it, and that is pretty much going to have to happen here, because otherwise this is going to shred our board away. They get to attack, and then after they declare the attack, because it's got Vigilance, then pay the 7 and destroy Havoc Jester before I can block. Really nice stuff. They can do this at instant speed just during their turn. So they can do it after you declare that vigilant attack, so really good card for that. But we're just going to disintegrate that before it starts destroying our whole field. Hopefully. They do have 1 mana up. They could have another Ephemerate type card, and they do. Feign Death. Another card that's kind of a plant for the Enter the Battlefield effects deck, because it's going to give you an ETB effect again once that creature dies. But here, Vona doesn't have an Enter the Battlefield effect, but they still do get to just save it from our removal spell, so that is very, very bad for us. They also make it even higher power to gain more life. So I assume they attack him with Vigilance here and then pay the 7 to kill the Foulmire Knight before we can block it with our Death Toucher, so that they know they get to keep hitting for like 5 life gain every turn. Alright, well, they waited to use the ability for now, which means at least we stop the damage, even if we don't trade with Vona here, which is pretty cool. This Forsworn Paladin has Menace, so unfortunately we can't block that. Yes, that was a pretty excellent deal for us, because they didn't use the ability pre-blocks. If they used it pre-blocks, they would have gained 5 more life. But since they had to use it after we blocked it, they shut off their own life gain because they're no longer dealing any damage to our creature. So that's pretty nice for us. Marionette Master here. Whenever an artifact they control is put into the graveyard, we lose life equal to its power. It's got 1 power, so we just lose 1 life when these servos die. Not that bad. Well, an indestructible creature's okay against Vona. Do we just play that over anything else? Falconwrath Noble when they're at 13 seems okay, but Vona's going to be gaining life. Kind of like just slamming down the Taunter. Are we attacking in? They have 4 power, so we could attack him with Havoc Jester. I suppose it's not really blocking, is it? Like, it's going to block a single 1-1 or a 1-3. It's not going to block Vona because Brash Taunter's indestructible. Brash Taunter is just going to block Vona. I suppose if they have more removal, they could throw it at Brash Taunter and then Jester would have blocked. But in that case, they can just kill Jester pre-combat. Or not pre-combat, but pre-blocks. Yeah, Jester can just die pre-blocks to Vona's ability anyway. If they get into a position where it would have been blocking well. So I'm not really concerned there. Herald of Anguish. Alright, at the beginning of their end step, I have to discard a card, and they can spend 2, sacrifice an artifact, and have a creature get -2/-2 till end of turn. So the immediate response to our indestructible creature. Although they have Expel from Orazka as well, still had all these, says our opponent. But yeah, Herald of Anguish, -2/-2 to an indestructible creature will kill it. So, Brash Taunter no longer a solution to this Vona problem. And we are pretty dead here, because now they are just going off with the life gain from Vona. Maybe I get really lucky and they destroy Putrid Goblin for some reason. Okay, nope. They did not destroy Putrid Goblin. The Will Persist is a nice little 1-1 there. So we're taking 7 in the sky. Our opponent has well over lethal. With Marionette Master's ability plus Herald of Anguish's ability, they can sacrifice their servos whenever they want for 2. And every servo they sacrifice is going to do 1 damage to us. So they have 7 hitting us in the sky, puts us down to 2 life. Plus 2 life drain from the servos for 4 mana. And then even if I play the Noble to block, they can kill the Noble by sacrificing a servo. But that is our most survivable play. Because then, now if they kill anything when we have a Noble out, we are gaining life at least. So we're more likely to survive this way than any other way. There's no possible attack here that finds a way to just squeeze in lethal. Because even if they block nothing, they go to 7 life, and then I don't have any way to sacrifice things. Even if I did, I could only do 3 more damage. Yeah, we just play the Noble and see what happens here, but it's looking pretty bad for us. Sangromancer. Now, whenever our creatures die, they gain 3 life, and when we discard cards, they gain 3 life, which is great in conjunction with the Herald of Anguish, making us discard cards in their end step. Life, it's 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, we gotta block that. 5, 6, 7, 8. Take 8 here and they gain 5 more. They're up to 13 life again. They gain 3 more when the goblin dies to Sangromancer. They're up to like 16 life. Oof. Alright, sure, and they have Forsworn Paladin's ability too. That I forgot about. Not that it would have mattered. We were dead that game pretty much several turns ago. Sorry about the audio cutting out there. All right. We are on the play here with an excellent hand in terms of mana. Best mana base in the game, checking in. Thriving Heath for white-red from our opponent. Just play a tapped land here and a Reaper's Talisman. I'm kind of interested in that. Probably just play an untapped land here, though. Maybe Mask of Immolation, so that's attacking 2. Yeah, let's get more creatures onto this board, and then we'll cast all our 1-drops next turn and crack a Terramorphic Expanse. Quite enjoy our opponent's username here. Sensual Centipede. Ooh, well, I'm glad I played a Mask of Immolation, because we're just going to shoot Magda before they get any treasures. Seems like a good deal to me. Grab red so we have double red and or double black. Play our 1-drops, send in with the Paladin. Now we're ready to just start throwing equipment onto the Paladin. Could start making some treasure tokens, because we do want to make it to 6 mana actually this game. Get this Harvester of Souls out eventually. Alright, well, now we have 4 mana. Definitely like throwing the Reaper's Talisman onto the Paladin, so we are gaining life as we're sending in. Let's go ahead and put both on there. Because I'm not going to want to use Foulmire Knight until I can cast Profane Insight and draw a card off of it. So we're just going to keep draining some life from our opponent with our menacing Forsworn Paladin. Charming Prince. Another enter the battlefield effect tribal card. This one can exile one of their creatures when it comes into play, then bring it back in their end step. So with the Priest of Ancient Lore, they'll be gaining another life, drawing another card. Now they do have 2 blockers to double block the Forsworn Paladin. Of course, Skyfisher, another card, works great with enter the battlefield effects, returning something to your hand when you play it. But they just return a land here, get their board as wide as possible. Unlicensed Disintegration is the draw. Attacking is no longer excellent for us, but it's still pretty good. Because they have to double block to kill the Paladin. I guess I need more power if I want to kill 2 things. Three mana to give it +2/+0. So I could attack it and then spend 3 if they block, and then I just kill the 2 things that blocked. But then I'm not playing anything this turn. I kind of want to just Profane Insight here. Ooh, Falkenrath Noble coming up. Yeah, I don't like attacking in anymore if I don't have the mana up to buff the Paladin, because even though it is a Death Touch creature getting blocked by multiple things, if it only has 1 power, it can only damage one of them, so it'll only kill one of them. Even though Death Touch kills anything it touches, in order to touch it, you have to put 1 damage on it. Conspiracy Theorist from our opponent. They can use that as a little rummaging engine, discarding cards and drawing cards. Ooh, Orcus. That'll be pretty great in the future. But I think for now I'm just casting Falkenrath Noble. And with a Falkenrath Noble out, I'm a lot more okay with things dying. Plus with Orcus in hand, where I can return stuff from the graveyard eventually. So now I'm kind of cool sending in the Paladin. If they do a double block to try to trade with the Paladin, We do get to use our Mask of Immolation to just kill whichever creature we want. Instead of one of those two, I'm just going to choose to kill a Core Skyfisher here, because I think it's the best creature on their board. So I will go ahead and go with the attack of that turn, now that we have the Falkenrath Noble to get a little bit extra value there. Shepherd of the Flock, though, another Enter the Battlefield tribal card. Well, one thing I've definitely been noticing from our first two opponents is that the just powerful Enter the Battlefield effects have a lot of support in terms of different ways to redo them. Our first opponent with the Ephemerate and the Feign Death, and this opponent with Charming Prince, Shepherd of the Flock. Definitely some great stuff. Core Skyfisher, of course. So just creatures with good Enter the Battlefield effects seem to be definitely high picks for this format. Here comes an Earthshaker Kenra, shutting off my Death Toucher from blocking. Send him with everybody because it would definitely be a trade down for my Falkenrath Noble to get in combat here. I may have to. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I go to 10 life if I don't throw that into combat. Yeah, I can take that. With Falkenrath Noble and Reaper's Talisman both gaining me life, we can come back from 10 life pretty easily. So there's the Core Skyfisher on the board again, picking up another land. Bloodbraid Marauder. We've got 2 card types in graveyard, so no Delirium yet. That is just a 2-mana 3/1. Do I hold on to our removal spell, our Unlicensed Disintegration, or do I throw a Talisman onto something, throw Mask of Immolation onto something? I actually really badly want just like 1 more mana to give everything -1/-1 with the Orcus. Well, Reaper's Talisman only does something on attacks, and I don't think I can really afford to attack here, so I think I just pass. And we hold up our Unlicensed Disintegration, because casting Bloodbraid Marauder doesn't help us, because it can't block, and we're definitely not attacking. Orcus doesn't really help us either. We definitely want at least 1 mana towards the X, so that we can actually shred some creatures with it. And none of our equips are super great, so I think that holding up the removal is better. Shadrix Silverquill. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each has to target somebody else. Somebody draws a card, loses life. Somebody puts a counter on each creature they control. So we draw a card, they get a counter on all their creatures. All right, we need to kill that before that effect goes off. I don't know how to. There we go. Stop there on their first main before combat. Or remove stop. Let's just full control it. And then yeah, just kill it immediately. Because I cannot let that trigger go off here. So I need to make sure I kill it before they go to combat. Alright, cool. Earthshaker Kenra's coming on in. Take 2, go to 9 here. I was really hoping they were just going to attack with everybody here, and then I could just trade my Foulmire Knight off for one of the 2/2s. Don't love trading it for the Kenra, because they can eternalize it for 6. Although I guess if I was planning to play an Orcus anyway, like I'm going to kill the Kenra. And then they could eternalize it. Guess I could play Orcus to return a Foulmire Knight after this combat. I'm pretty scared about a 4/4 Hasting Kenra shutting off a block. They only need 1 more land to do that. So I have the mana to play an Orcus and give everything -1/-1, but then I'm killing my Foulmire Knight and their Earthshaker Kenra, and that scares me. I could play Orcus and bring back our 1/1. I could throw the Reaper's Talisman onto something. Could throw the Mask onto something. think we play Orcus and just bring back another blocker here. We're just so low on life here. And we just need more creatures to clutter up the board to get into more combat, so more creatures trade, because every time creatures trade, we get that much closer to draining our opponent out with Falconwrath Noble's effect. So just tossing a bunch of stuff onto this board seems very, very good. Lightning Spear from our opponent. They do have the mana to sacrifice that immediately if they want to kill Orcus. And they do. Well, we do get to hit them for life here. They're down to 9, we're up to 10, and no attacks. So they're at 9. For 2 mana, we throw a Reaper's Talisman out. Put them down to 7. Plus, if the Paladin dies, we put them down to 6. And if it doesn't die, we still put them down to 6 because it hits them. Yeah, I like suiting up that Forsworn Paladin here, getting an attack off with that. Seems very good to me. Do I throw a Mask of Immolation onto it as well? I think I do. Because, yeah, our only other card to play would be Bloodbraid Marauder, which can't block anyway, and we have enough mana to move it again after combat. So we'll do it pre-combat, so that if they go for a good double block, then again, we just sacrifice it to kill their best creature, which would be their flyer here. Oh yeah, now we don't kill the Earthshaker counter anymore, which is very, very good for us. Because we don't want that in their grave. Although I suppose they don't have the mana to play it anyway. Now we go to main phase 2, throw a mask onto something else. Throw it onto the Death Toucher so we can sacrifice a Death Toucher and kill any creature. We're at 14 life and they're down to 5. Actually, in the hot seat now. Oof, but Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. Actually one of the few Ajanis ever made that does not gain life in any way. Alright, well, if that Ajani doesn't gain life, that's not that bad for us, but it does bring Kor Skyfisher back from the grave here. And they cast a Shepherd of the Flock as well. They're at 5 life, so they're basically dead on board. It's just going to take a lot of mana for us to do it here. But with Falconwrath Noble, plus Reaper's Talisman, plus Mask of Immolation, we can attack with Filemire Knight. That hits them for 2 with the Reaper's Talisman. Then they're at 3. Then we sacrifice, bam, they're down to 2. And they get shot for 1, and then we throw the mask onto the Noble for that last point of damage there. So 2, 4, 6, 8, we take it all, and then hit in for lethal with a Reaper's Talisman on the Filemire Knight here. Just these aristocrat-style effects just coming in to close out the game. If they block, that's actually more damage to them, I think. Okay, I mean, either way, we just sacrifice it and they're just dead. If they do or don't block. Alright. So 1-1 it is. For the Aristocrats Sacrifice Rakdos deck. All of the different names for sacrificing stuff. So here we are in round 3. We've got that Reaper's Talisman again. That did great in our last game. Could just throw a Filemire Knight out turn 1, but again, I always love drawing a card off that thing. Probably too much, probably too greedy with it. But I do enjoy it. I will play a Bloodbraid Marauder, though. Just our highest power creature to get swinging with a Talisman on it. Oh, I'll trade it for a Perilous Mirror. It's not a great trade, but the mirror's gonna kill it whenever it dies, regardless, even if we keep it as safe as possible. The mirror will just trade with something else and then do 2 damage to it. Alright, so the trade occurs, and they're gonna ping us for 2 here. Definitely seems really good to me to get this off the board, because otherwise, with how small our creatures are in general, that's always going to trade for 2 of our cards. Which would be a very bad deal. Dragon Master Outcast just coming out here on turn 3. 3 lands away from making dragons, but they can suit it up with a Goldvein Pick. I really like the play from our opponent. Not often are you going to see a Dragon Master Outcast this aggressive, but we see it here and we're just going to blow it up. Because otherwise, this is an army of 5/5 dragons we're going to have to deal with, and the quicker we blow it up, the less likely they are to have some kind of pump spell to save it. So we'll do it while they're completely tapped out there. Alright, well, I'll discard some lands then. Rude opponent. Drawn to Orcus, but don't have a lot of fancy stuff we could do with Orcus, so I'm just going to do our Profane Insight here. Now if we hit 1 more mana, we get to do a fancy thing with Orcus and bring back one of these 2-mana creatures from our grave. That could be pretty good. And there we go. Our opponent with the Treasure Tribal. Magda with a Goldvein Pick, so when they attack with Magda, they create a treasure token, and then if she hits us, they create another treasure token because of the pick. So that's pretty good. I could Orcus -2/-2. I most definitely don't want to do that, though. I'd rather probably just Orcus and bring a creature back, which would be the creature that can actually block. Yeah, let's do that. And I guess I get to attack with that because I've got a Death Toucher anyway, so I might as well get some damage in. Suppose if they have a removal spell here now, they can get in with Magda and get all their treasures, because I don't think I'm blocking with Orcus. There's Kalane from our opponent. Definitely the Treasure Tribal deck over here. Throw the Goldvein Pick onto Kalane. Ooh, a Vorpal Sword. Costs 8 mana to win the game with it. We have 6 mana, so we're probably not doing the Vorpal Sword thing, but we get some extra damage out, which is pretty snazzy. I guess if I want to block Kalane or kill Kalane, this is the only time to do it, because otherwise I'll have a 2/2 against their 2/3. Sure, they have 2 treasures already, so they're going to make something pretty big off of Kalane's effect. We'll trade there. And I am all in on Orcus now. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand, but they're stuck on 3 mana. 2 treasure tokens, though, will help with that. We've just got Orcus. Unfortunately, the removal that they had in hand was exactly for that situation. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. So they needed us to get into a position where we only had 1 creature on board to kill our Orcus, and we put ourselves there. Brash Taunter's a pretty good draw. A little weird, but solid. There's a Soul Seer. It loses Indestructible. If we target our own Brash Taunter, it just dies. Well, even though it dies, I still kill my opponent here, right? Wait, it depends on when the abilities go on the stack. Wait a second. So if Falkenrath Noble's ability resolves first when my Brash Taunter dies, then they'll gain a life. But otherwise, if Brash Tantra's ability resolves first, where it deals 5 to them, then they'll die. I don't actually know which ability is going to resolve first here, so I'm just going to play it safe and just get the big life gain attack out here and get that life drain, and then I can just Soul Seer next turn. Although I guess I can also just attack next turn. Now. Alright, they scoop him up. I would be really interested to see. So, the play that I was thinking of there, again, to make it as clear as possible, was they were at 7 life. So, we could use Brash Taunter to fight the Noble, put them to 5 life, and then Soul Seer our own Brash Taunter for the final 5 damage. The problem with that is, because the Soul Seer makes it lose indestructible, we would kill Brash Taunter when we do that, so it would matter, like, then Falconwrath Noble's ability would go on the stack, and Brash Taunter's ability would go on the stack. They'd have a trigger that would let them gain a life, and we'd have a trigger that would deal 5 damage to them, so I wouldn't know which would resolve first. I guess the best play there, we could have also not given them another turn if we just equipped the Reaper's Talisman and attacked instead of fighting. And then if they didn't block, they take 3 total, so then even if they gained a life, they would have died. So I guess I shouldn't have gone all in with the Vorpal Sword. Had I just equipped the Talisman and then attacked, we would have drained them for 2 life. If they blocked, we'd hit them for 2 more, because the Taunter would be dealt 2 more damage, so they wouldn't block there. So we'd drain them for 2 life and hit them for 1, putting them to 4 life, which when they're at 4 life, even if they gain 1 life, Soul Seer would kill them with 5 more damage from Brash Taunter. So that was a really weird turn all around, but luckily it did just work out for us. Our opponent didn't have any more life gain or interaction on their next turn. So 2 turns of Brash Taunter swinging in is going to be enough. Okay. So we're in round 4 now, and this is the first time we've seen our seasoned Pyromancer. I'm excited to play around with that. Novice Knight, turn 1 from our opponent. There are a good amount of auras and equipment in the Tinkerer's Cube, so we'll see what our opponent's playing around with here. Could be green-white enchantments, could be red-white equipment. Green-white it is, and a Prosperous Innkeeper is their turn 2 play, creating a treasure token and gaining life when they play more creatures. Our turn 2 play is going to be a Putrid Goblin. I would like a Blood Artist on the board, but we don't need Blood Artist on the board until creatures start dying, and I don't expect they will quite yet. Because I'm not making any trump blocks yet, they're not going to make any trades on their attacks yet. We have the Seasoned Pyromancer here, but we only have 1 non-land card, so we'd only get 1 elemental. Still a pretty good deal. So I think I still just play it here, right? Discard a Mountain and a Beetleback Chief. My plan next turn is to play a Blood Artist and use Witch's Cauldron. Probably. I guess Beetleback Chief is also just pretty good here, so I could just discard 2 lands, but then I don't get any elementals. I think a Beetleback Chief is worth the elemental here. Oh, we hit 2 real cards. 2 non-land cards, Forsworn Paladin and Siegegang Commander. Siegegang Commander is going to be particularly excellent with a Blood Artist on the board. Animation Module. When they get +1/+1 counters, they can pay 1 to get 1/1 servos, and they can spend 3 mana, tap it, and add a counter of any kind to a permanent or player. So if something has a +1/+1 counter, they can give it another +1/+1 counter. But right now the animation module does nothing, because they have no counters anywhere. Alright, the Novice Knight does get enchanted with a Cartouche of Solidarity, giving it +1/+1 in first strike. Solidarity forever. Well, we're taking 3. Another land for us, so we can play this without taking damage. Cool. But I think the play is still going to be Blood Artist. Hold up Witch's Cauldron's ability. Could cast the Forsworn Paladin. But I want to get some more fuel, so we'll hold up the Witch's Cauldron and probably end up sacrificing our Elemental here. But we'll wait until after blocks, that way we have as many creatures for as much power as possible to block with. And there's that Blessed Spirits, getting a +1/+1 counter whenever they cast an enchantment. And if it does get a +1/+1 counter, then that will be their card they can use their animation module on, giving it more counters and creating 1/1 servos. So, Varus Silvery Moon Ranger does venture into the dungeon once for them, heading into the Lost Mine of Phandelver and scrying 1. The next time they venture, they get a treasure token or a 1/1 goblin. So Novice Knight's coming in again. We will chump block and gain a life, draw a card here. Mask of Immolation is the draw. Another great sacrifice outlet. Just sacrifice a thing to do 1 damage wherever we want. Could do that twice and kill the Blessed Spirits before they get any counters on it. That could be a good deal. Throw it onto the Putrid Goblin to do that. I think I'm rolling with that, actually. I don't want this to get any +1/+1 counters on it, because then their animation module just goes off. So we'll sacrifice the Elemental token we just got. And then we'll sacrifice the Putrid Goblin here to get that Blessed Spirits off the board. And of course the Putrid Goblin persists and comes back to the board here. We'll pay the 2 life to get a Forsworn Paladin onto the board as well. And now we still have good blocks for Varus, because we can double block with a 2/2 and a 1/1. Ooh, a plate armor from our opponent, though. As soon as they start equipping that, we're not going to have any good blocks for that. Well, they actually don't even attack with Novice Knight. I was going to say, I don't have any blocks I'd want to make against the Novice Knight, because it does have first strike. But if they were ever thinking about attacking with Varus, we've got great blocks there. And we do draw Soulseer, so we draw another great removal spell. Really just keep their board all kinds of under control with all our sacrifice outlets and stuff. So I think I'm going to throw Mask of Immolation onto the Putrid Goblin so that I can shoot their Innkeeper or their 1/1 token here. But then I'm just going to hold up Soulseer. Oh, I forgot Varus has Ward. Yeah, that was a bit of a misplay on my part. Now I can't shoot Varus. My plan was to shoot Varus, but I completely forgot that it costs an additional mana to kill it. We need an additional mana to target it at all, or it will counter our Soulseer. Warbriar Blessing. Alright, so the full punishment, because if I had Soulseer up here, we get that crispy clean 2-for-1. But alas, they're going to kill Blood Artist. If they're going to kill Blood Artist, do we go ahead and shoot a 1/1 right now? I suppose we do. So we can get the life gain out of it before it dies. Still playing it real safe with Varus. I'm very fine with that. We'll just go down to 20 here. Alright, I'm just going to shoot Varus before I forget this time around, because it's pretty important to kill. We'll do it before they draw any cards here. Then expand our board here with the Heartfire Immolator. I think with Witch's Cauldron and the just amount of token production we can have in our deck, ooh, never mind. We're pretty set for the long game, but a Harmonious Archon will turn that around a little bit. Turns everything into 3/3s. It's a 4/5 flyer. Base power and toughness 3/3. Just do that, and then they can first strike one, but then I kill the Novice Knight with the other two, and only one of my creatures dies here. So I trade a 3/3 for a 4/4 first strike. Seems like a good deal to me. They definitely kill the Forsworn Paladin, but I actually think the Heartfire Immolator is a better creature for me on this board. Because any non-Archon creature they play from now on, I can just kill with the Heartfire Immolator, because it's going to be a 3/3 no matter what it would have been. So I actually think Heartfire Immolator is pretty sweet on this board. We don't have anything to block flyers. If I play Siege Gang Commander, I can sacrifice... I'd have to sacrifice 3 goblins to kill the Archon. That is just not good. But, I mean, 4 3/3s, probably the best play we have. Yeah, we'll have to sacrifice 3 goblins to kill the Archon, or we'll have to sacrifice 1 goblin and an Immolator. I guess, yeah, sacrifice Immolator for 3 damage. Sacrifice a goblin for 2 damage. We've got a pretty good plan to kill the Archon next turn. Totally forgot about the 3 damage Immolator there. After literally just saying it. Although there's the plate armor from our opponent. So we no longer have a way to kill that Archon. Being 8 toughness now. And ward 1, so every single time we target it, we have to pay an extra. Trade with the Pyromancer here, because it's got a great ability when it's in the grave. Give us more creatures. Harvester of Souls. Alright, none of this helps against the flyer. We're going to take 7 in the sky guaranteed. For 5 mana, we get 2 creatures here. So we play 1 creature and then hold up Witch's Cauldron or Mask of Immolation or Siege Gang Commander. Or we play 2 creatures and hold up nothing. I think we attack all. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We attack all. If they don't block, they die. If they do block, then they can't crack back for lethal if we cast Seasoned Pyromancer, because then we'll just have 2 blockers on the ground, which is more than enough to block the maximum of 2 creatures that they'll have left after going for blocks. We have to try to squeeze out lethal against our opponent here, or else they're just killing us. 2 more attacks in the sky. Alright, so this is how it's going to be here. So if this is the case, I think we just take all those trades. We hit them for 6, so they're down to 10, and then we play 2 more 3/3s, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 damage on the crackback, so if our opponent just top decks a land here, they can't attack with Archon or they die. We definitely can't sacrifice any of these, because if we sacrifice them, they get to keep these creatures on the ground. We want these trades to happen. Yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Use Seasoned Pyromancer to get 2 more creatures out. We now have lethal on the crackbacks. If our opponent draws dead here, they can't afford to attack with Archon. So this keeps us alive. if nothing else, and probably gets us the win, because if they draw nothing, like we attack all and then we throw Mask of Immolation onto one of them that survived and shoot them for the last 1 damage. Hit for 9 and then 1 more with the Mask. See if we get there. Choose the Elemental because we've got like Siege Gang Commander could maybe come back somehow and care about the Ming Goblins. Alright, they scoop them up. Whew. Was not expecting that that turn of events there. I was super scared when that Archon got suited up for that 8 toughness. So we are at 3-1 now. Doing pretty well here in our first Tinkerer's Cube draft. Alright. Mayhem Devil and Havoc Jester with a sacrifice outlet like Witch's Cauldron. We could just go off here, which would be pretty cool. Ooh, turn 3, Seasoned Pyromancer, but there's nothing I want to discard here. I really like our non-land cards, so it seems a bit sketchy to try to get some elementals here. Battlecry Goblin turn 2 from our opponent. I do really want to kill that, because this has just been the bane of my existence in Dungeons & Dragons drafts. But can also just curve out. Can also just curve out and attack in. Like, I have a built-in way to deal with that at any point later on just by sacrificing the Immolator, so we're pretty safe against it. Oh, Beetleback Chief here for even more tokens to discard the stuff. Oh, it's so good. I think I played Pyromancer, discard Chief and Cauldron here because we want to hit the 5 lands to get to Jester and hopefully get better ways to sacrifice stuff than the Cauldron, maybe. That might be too bold, but I'm considering that. I definitely attack with Immolator, but maybe I don't attack with Mayhem Devil here, because they could block and then spend the 2 mana to trade their Battlecry Goblin up into the Devil. Might be a bad deal. Probably a bad deal. Let's just attack with Immolator. I would expect, yeah, I was going to say, I'd expect the trade here as well, because Immolator with Devil as a backup is just a really good synergy. And I'm actually going to get incredibly bold here. I'm going to plan to cast Beetleback Chief next turn and curve out. We're going to get rid of our 1 piece of interaction. And hope that our opponent doesn't play anything that just needs to be dealt with by a card like a Soulseer. So Terramorphic Expanse was an excellent land to draw, because now we get to do a damage to them when we sack it. That being said, I do kind of have to sacrifice it right now, so I know I get to play a 4-drop next turn. So I didn't get to wait till they played something. They have an Anointed Procession out, so the next time they play anything that makes tokens, they get twice that many tokens, so that could be terrifying. But the board's empty for now. We're just getting in real aggressively. There's a Beetleback Chief out as well. They're going to need a lot of tokens to survive another couple attacks here, especially with a removal spell like Unlicensed Disintegration in our hand. This is going to destroy one of their cards and deal 3 damage to them, because I do have an artifact that I can play to have on the field for this, the Vorpal Sword for only 1 mana. We can cast that as well as our Disintegration next turn. Goblin Wizardry for 4 1/1s, so they have blockers and a Goblin Banneret as well. Some Goblin Tribal over there. Well, our attacks are no longer looking super excellent. I suppose they are tapped out. So if they want to trade up into our 2/2s and 3/3s, they have to double or triple block. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 attackers total, so they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They take at least 2, go to 8 life. They probably make multi-blocks where Unlicensed Disintegration can really get them. I think we just go for it here. Cast Vorpal Sword so that the Disintegration does extra damage, then just attack with everybody. And if they try to like triple block Mayhem Devil, we kill one of those and do 3 additional damage to them, which could be a massive swing for us. So they go for the playing it safe here. Spread out the blocks. They take 1, 2, 3, 4. Sure, and then I'll just hold up Unlicensed Disintegration then, because I'm fine with any of the 1/1s dying here. Sure. And we'll pass turn, hold up the Disintegration for whatever creature they cast this turn. It's not going to work great if they cast another Goblin Wizardry type spell, but if they cast a big old creature like a Krenko, it'll be pretty excellent. Alright, end step, Disintegrate Krenko. 3 extra damage puts them to 3 life. Very dead to all this stuff. Okay, and I was going to say, we can even cast a Blood Artist pre-combat in case they have some kind of deals damage to an attacking creature thing, then we can drain them for life when they kill that. But looks like just the aggressive start that game going to be too much. Being on the play with all those just powerful token producers for cheap, so 4 wins and 1 loss. Round 6 now. Rakdos Sakdos. Taking names. All right. Our opponent is going first this time around. We've got some great sacrifice shenanigans as usual. We'll start out with our Slaughter Priest, because that'll get attacking in pretty well. 2 damage every attack. Our opponent's on blue and white. There's definitely some blue-white flyers going on. Blue-white flicker as well with good enter the battlefield effects, and that is how our opponent starts off with Pilgrim of the Ages here, grabbing a basic plains when it comes into play. Mask of Immolation can shoot that and get it out of the way for our other creatures. They can bring that back from the graveyard eventually, but we get in for a nice 4 damage attack nice and early in the game here. And that clears it out of the way for quite a while here, which is definitely good when you're on the aggressive, which I would assume we are in this matchup. Filigree Familiar, a 2/2 that gains some life and draws a card when it dies. Seasoned Pyromancer's a pretty good card. I think I discard Brash Taunter. I don't expect this deck to have creatures that are that big, and we just don't have a lot of synergies with it. So we'll discard Taunter and a land here, so we get a 1/1. Okay, Slaughter Priest would just trade for the Familiar, so that's pretty terrible for us. Not a particularly reasonable attack here. Nico Harris.
We are always learning, always growing.
They're one of the more confusing planeswalkers out of like all of them, so I just have to read them every time. Make creatures unblockable. Deal damage to tap creatures equal to cards drawn and create shards that can scry and draw a card. And they're enchantment tokens. Yeah, Nico is a very complex planeswalker. Alright, well, do I play Havoc Gesture or Siege Gang Commander here? I don't even know if we want to attack them. I guess I should probably attack before I do anything, because that way I could sacrifice a 1/1 elemental to make the Slaughter Priest survive. But if I do that, then I am trading the elemental up into the familiar anyway. So they're still like drawing a card and stopping all the damage. Like they're definitely just going to slam block if I do that. I think I just cast Havoc Gesture and I just don't attack this turn because I want to cast a 5-mana card. The only way I can cast a 5-mana card is if I don't attack, because if I do attack, I'm going to have 2 mana soaked up into sacrificing something for the priest. So play a big old Havoc Gesture there. Cast out. Well, there goes the Havoc Gesture. So the reason that I liked the Havoc Gesture over the Siege Gang Commander is because it's going to attack really well by itself without putting any extra mana into it, whereas like with Siege Gang Commander, all of a sudden I have a bunch of 2/2s and 1/1s. Could sacrifice 1 goblin to shoot away the familiar, but with Havoc Gesture I could also just sacrifice 1 elemental to shoot the familiar, because the mask would do 1 damage and the gesture would do the 2nd damage we need. So I think that Havoc Gesture just being a better attacker by itself while also helping clear the board made me like that a little better. But they did have cast out, so Siege Gang Commander would have been a little better because we'd still have the goblin tokens left behind even if the Siege Gang wouldn't be. So now we have Reaper's Talisman, which is definitely helpful here. Does this probably still drains them even if I attack their Planeswalker, right? I'm gonna assume it does. This costs 1 mana to play and then 2 to equip, so I could cast Siege Gang Commander here or equip Talisman. I can't do both. Kind of like casting Commander here, because Siege Gang Commander works really well with the Reaper's Talisman, because the Reaper's Talisman can make one of the goblins a Death Toucher when it attacks, and then I can shoot that goblin at anything with Siege Gang Commander and just Death Touch kill anything. That being said, their creatures are all small enough now to die pretty easily, but if they played like a 4/4 Flying Vigilance or something, then the Reaper's Talisman plus Siege Gang Commander combo would be really good. Although I guess we already have the Mask of Immolation plus Reaper's Talisman combo, which is the same thing. We've used that in an earlier matchup.
They won't even know what hit them.
Oh, interesting. They're going to go ahead and slap us with the Filigree Familiar and then recast it here to gain some more life. Pretty nice. Do I just want to chip away at their board with Siege Gang Commander now? I am kind of interested in that. Yeah, I want to be able to actually attack in with stuff, so I just crack all these goblins to get in. Draw your extra cards, opponent. So I could throw a Mask of Immolation onto my elemental token instead of sacrificing a goblin here, because the goblins all do 2 damage, the mask only does 1. Yeah, we'll save the 2 damage for stuff that needs to be dealt to. Now they just have Augur of Bolas left. I'm not going to have enough to kill that. So I think I just play my creature land, slap the talisman onto the creature we're going to be attacking with, and send it in. We probably get the chump block with the Augur here, because otherwise we kill Nico. Yep, there's the chump block, nice. So we have cleared the whole board, and they do have an Ephemerate, but now we got rid of all those creatures with their good enter the battlefield effects. And we still, in my opinion, don't have to worry about the Pilgrim of the Ages, because they're not going to tap out just to put something in their hand. So I'm still feeling pretty good about clearing out that Pilgrim of the Ages for now. They are going to kill the Slaughter Priest with Nico's minus ability. Vorpal Sword. We have the triple black and the 5. Well, if we keep this board clear, Vorpal Sword could find the way to finish the game. So let's focus on doing that still, I think. Let's actually throw our Seasoned Pyromancer at the Priest, because then we can use the Pyromancer in the grave to make more elementals, which is very nice. I guess I could have found lethal on Nico there, but they have Ephemerate here anyway. Yeah, if I had two power creatures out, I'd have lethal on Nico, but because of Ephemerate, the Priest is going to block one either way. Do I use the Pyromancer here? Or do I shoot the Priest again? I'm 1 mana off from being able to shoot the Priest again and attack with the Den of the Bugbear. I really like attacking with the Den of the Bugbear here. Both of these cost 4 to activate, so either way. I guess I could sacrifice to the Siege Gang Commander or sacrifice to the Mask of Immolation, doesn't really matter. But I'm going to clear the Priest out. Then just attack Nico with both of these for 3. We don't get the life drain if we do that, but we don't need the life drain anymore. We're going to try to get a Vorpal Sword kill. Just want to keep Nico from doing anything absurd. I guess now Nico gets to kill our Siege Gang Commander, but when we have a way to give our goblins Death Touch and sacrifice them for 1 damage anyway, our Siege Gang Commander isn't really doing much. And luckily, by keeping that board clear, the rebound on Ephemerate is not going to give them any extra value. They're going to go ahead and kill the Siege Gang Commander, fine by us. They have 7 mana here. Just spend 6 to throw the Pilgrim in hand, please. Nope. Empyrean Eagle is coming out onto the board. A 2/3 flyer that gives all of their other flyers +1/+1. Soulseer is the draw. Okay. So the Talisman gives Death Touch whether or not it's attacking alone. So if we throw a Mask of Immolation onto our Goblin token, we can kill that Empyrean Eagle if it gets to attack, period. So we can do that, and then we could also attack with the Den of the Bugbear. That way I'm immediately attacking this creature, or immediately attacking this turn with enough creatures to kill Nico. Like, I could go for the Pyromancer here, but then those 1/1s aren't attacking this turn, and I think attacking this turn is pretty good. I don't really want to Soulseer Nico if I don't have to, because attacking with Bugbear also gives me a permanent 1/1 Goblin that I can then use to Reaper's Talisman plus Mask of Immolation on a future turn. Just seems like all in all pretty great deal to get another token on this board while we're killing Nico. Although I suppose this is certainly riskier. So we're going to do that. And then before blocks, sacrifice the goblin. Okay, so we get Death Touch. Now that we have Death Touch, kill the eagle. So these definitely go through and we kill Nico here. Awesome.
I've only lost on purpose before.
And we have a token left behind to throw a Vorpal Sword or a Mask or any of that stuff onto. Elite Guard Mage. Another annoying blocker, but we can just shoot our Goblin token on that. Den of the Bugbear actually just going to work in conjunction with our Mask Reaper's Talisman combo really well here. Just super sweet stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, we have enough mana to win on Vorpal Sword, but it has to be when it's equipped on something that's going to survive. Plus when it's equipped on something, period. So we have to equip it before the turn we're trying to win with it. So I can't just like win with it this turn. Could Soulseer the Guard Mage so that I can play more creatures this turn. Then I get to play Noble. I play Noble and Soulseer here. But I think it's probably best to leave all that removal in hand. 2, 3. I guess we have 8 mana. We're not attacking with Den of the Bugbear if I'm doing all the Talisman Mask stuff, but I think I'm still supposed to just do Talisman Mask, so I get to keep all this stuff for other things. Alright, and that doesn't have first strike, right? So we can just let it be combat damage, that's fine. I guess I should have played Noble pre-combat for 1 extra point of life drain, rather than trying to hide our hand there. Alright, they are returning the Pilgrim to hand. And they have the 3 mana to recast it as just a 2/1. Well, now all we need is a Mask. We don't even need the Talisman. Just a good game here, so they might just be scooping them up. Go ahead and get our tokens, Mask onto the Elemental, chip that away and drain some life. I don't know if they noticed. Maybe they were saying GG because they thought we could Vorpal Sword for the win there, but we don't have enough mana to do that. It cost 2 to equip and then 8 to win. We had 9 mana, so we were 1 mana away from just equipping the Noble and winning that turn. But that might be why they were GGing there. But we can get the Vorpal Sword win this turn if we hit a land. 2 mana to kill their flyer, and then 8 mana to win the game. Alright, don't hit a land, so we don't have the win this turn either. Four, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 8 to win. So we just hit for 4 here. Slam in with the Den of the Bugbear as well. We have 2 mana after that, so we could throw a Talisman onto something. Still do that. Kind of want to kill this Soul Herder. I think I'm just going to slap Talisman onto the Noble. Get that life drain going here. And I'm just going to kill the Soul Herder before it does anything too insane. Drain them for a little more life here as well. Cloudkin Seer. 2/1 flyer and they draw a card. Teachings of the Archaics does nothing here because we have less cards in hand. Right, tapped manland there. Steel Plume Marshal. Another flyer. Well, another flyer is going to hold down the fort here then. Keep Falconwrath Noble from getting in there. So activate the Den of the Bugbear, and then we have 4 mana to play around with. Probably just trades into the Cloudkin Seer, right? If I throw Reaper's Talisman onto it, I know I put them to 4. And then Mask as well, I think, is our best line. We put them to, like, essentially 2 here. Correct? I think this just gets there. Because they're at 4. If we sack the Den of the Bugbear, we hit them for 2 more, put them to 2 life. If this goblin dies, they take another damage. If one of their creatures dies, they take another damage. We can probably find lethal here. I should have attacked with Noble as well. We could definitely find lethal if we did that. So what's going to happen here? 1, 2, 3 creatures die, so we do 3 more and put them to 1. If I sacrifice the Den of the Bugbear to shoot them for 1, they take 1, 2, 3. Either way, we put them to 1 this way. Yeah, I should have attacked with Falconwrath Noble. I guess I'd rather kill the bigger flyer. So might as well do that. I guess now they're at 2 instead of 1 because I kept my kept one of my creatures around this way. Definite miss lethal there. Snow Day, tap them both. That's fine. We've got Mask of Immolation to just sacrifice them. If we don't see a boatload of life gain or a boatload of damage, we've still got this. Alright, activate a Hall of the Storm Giants. They are completely tapped out. Mask of Immolation will get there here. And that will be game. So 5 wins now. Perfect record for a Tinkerer's Cube draft. That gives us all of the gold that requires that is required to play in the cube draft to play in another one. So yeah, we're breaking even here. My apologies if I'm a little scatterbrained in the commentary again today. That does happen when events like this pop on just in the middle of my work week. I generally try to record only on days where I can super get my head into the game, which is definitely not usually on work days, but definitely not like midweek work days. But sometimes that's just when the events pop up on Arena. And I do want to get these events out to you in a timely manner. Oh, should have played Vorpal Sword. There we go again. There we go again with the missed lines. I don't know why I didn't play Vorpal Sword. It's got two autoplay mode there, I guess. If we don't draw any 3 or 4 mana cards here, we've got plenty of time to play this Vorpal Sword. I could miss a couple more casts. But I suppose missing it that turn is going to be 2 less damage for us this turn. And maybe I should have also just made a treasure token with the Paladin there instead of just hitting for 1. Because I don't have anything else I'm casting this turn anyway. Alright, now I like Sword, Treasure. These are both plays I should have just done last turn. I guess I should have done one of the two. Probably just play Sword last turn and then make the Treasure this turn. But if I had played the Sword last turn, then I'd have the option of equipping the Sword this turn instead. Which would have been nice. Alright, Krydle's coming in, and a treasure map from our opponent. Scries a few times, then draws a few cards. Great deal all around. We can use our treasure token to get a Siege Gang Commander out real quickly here, or we could wait a turn and use it to play a Harvester of Souls. Which is cooler? I almost think Harvester of Souls is cooler here, but we're against blue-black, so they could have counter spells and removal spells. More than any other color, even in the Tinkerer's Cube. Let's just get the commander out. That seems fair enough. Make our board just really wide and scary rather than put all our eggs in one basket next turn. Sanitarium Skeleton, the ultimate blocker, is going to repeatedly come back from the grave to their hand. Reaper's Talisman's a pretty great draw, because we know how well that works with Siege Gang Commander's effect, but so does Vorpal Sword. So I think I am going to use Reaper's Talisman over the Vorpal Sword here, though. Oh, they're just going to scoop him up. They see a Reaper's Talisman with a board of 1/1 tokens, and they already know what's coming, and they are not a fan of it. So I think with a Sanitarium Skeleton out, it isn't that bad for them, but they would have to soak up all their mana just into recasting a skeleton, and if that was the case, we could definitely get there chipping in with our other creatures. But our plan there is to suit up a Goblin, send in, we get to kill Krydle by sacrificing it to the Siege Gang Commander because we've got the Death Touch, and then their board is literally just a Sanitarium Skeleton. And then we just, keep giving our little 1/1s Death Touch to beat everything that isn't recurring itself from the grave. So 6 wins and 1 loss now. Only 1 victory away from a 7-win run, the maximum wins we can get. I'll see if I can't get there. Definitely just riding on the power level of our deck and our deck synergies here, because I've definitely been taking some not ideal lines throughout these games, but But I have noticed a good amount of lines that have not been ideal and at least pointed them out afterwards. But I'm sure there are plenty other lines that I've missed that have not gone noticed. Alright, so this is a slow hand for our deck. We aren't going to do anything till turn 4 at least, and if we do something on turn 4, it's going to be an Orcus with no extra value, which is always sad, but still definitely worth the mana cost. We start off with a turn 2 makeshift munitions, but we don't have any munitions to throw into the cannon. And a Professor of Symbology, turn 1 from our opponent, going to learn a lesson. They grab Containment Breach to just immediately blow up our makeshift munitions and get a 1/1 pass token. Seems like literally the perfect lesson to have against the turn 2 enchantment play. Great deal for our opponent here. But they aren't going to cast Containment Breach yet. They go ahead and just cast a Daredevil Dragster. Cruise as a 4/4, and after it's attacked 2 times, they sacrifice it and draw 2 cards. Sure. So we don't really have anything here. I guess we can cast Orcus. But if I wait one more turn, I can cast Orcus and kill their Professor of Symbology with it. So I will just do that, hold on to Unlicensed Disintegration if we want to cast that on something. Suppose I could cast it on their Daredevil Dragster, because that is going to hit me for 4 damage here, and another 4 if I don't block it next turn. And this will stop them from drawing those extra cards in the future. Seems like an okay deal. It's not a great deal, but yeah, this gets me doing something with my mana here instead of just passing through. They're gonna go ahead and Containment Breach now. That would be excellent, because then they would get that 1/1 and I'd be killing 2 cards with Orcus here, killing their 2/1 and their 1/1 Pest. So now's as good a time as any for us. Alright, there it is. Containment Breach and grab the Pest token. Here comes Orcus to get this board back to square one. Our opponent still has 6 cards in hand to play around with, and a Gnarled Professor it is, a 5/4 trample that also learns a lesson. See what they grab this time around. A Fractal Summoning for a big old XX Fractal. Currently that would only be a 2/2, so we're not that scared of it yet. Well, we can definitely just keep attacking with Orcus. Let's go ahead and draw a card before attacks to see if we draw anything good here. I don't know why the auto tapper spent a red there, but luckily for us it didn't matter, but it very well could have. That was a really bad auto tap in my opinion. Alright, cast our Foulmire Knight, so we have a Death Touch blocker against their 5/4. And cast our Witch's Cauldron because we've got the mana to do it. This turns into a 3/3 Beholder that exiles a card from their graveyard. Alright, it's basically just a 3/3 attacker. Not doing that anytime soon, but it could be relevant. Alright, well, there's a lot of stuff from our opponent. We've got a Pelt Collector that just keeps getting bigger, and Neyith that can double a creature's power at the start of their combat. That's pretty terrifying. And whenever their creatures become blocked, they draw a card. Well, we still kind of have to take this trade, get this off the board as quickly as possible, because if we don't, Neyith gets to double its power and make it a 10 power attacker next turn. Naeth is pretty terrifying, although Brash Taunter is a pretty good response to that. Dealing damage to our opponent's face based on however big their creature was. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to play Brash Taunter here. And hopefully this is a game where Brash Taunter's damage is going to be just maxed out by blocking a bunch of really big creatures from our opponents. It's not good against trample creatures, because trample creatures can choose to do only 1 damage to it and then the rest to our face, but against anything without trample, that'll be pretty good. Tolsimir does play a wolf that fights Orcus to death, which is pretty horrible for us, because it also draws them a card with Naeth. So it's just like fight spell tribal over here, which is not panning out well for the Rakdos Sakdos deck. If we use Brash Taunter to fight one of their creatures, they draw a card with Naeth. That's crazy. Probably just play a big old 5/5 Death Toucher here, I guess, because we're not really going to spend the mana to fight anything. The only other choice is a 5/5 that doesn't have Death Touch, so we might as well get the Death Touch one out, especially because it could also draw us cards. Havoc Jester's doing very little for us right now. So we're kind of just hoping that Brash Taunter holds them off for quite a while here. Because we don't have action for a while. Gotta draw into something here. Five fives are not really gonna chip in against this green deck. Field trip, grabbing a land, grabbing another lesson. They are out of lessons, so any more learn cards they have are not going to be ideal. Well, Taunter's working out pretty well so far, just holding them off. So just keep making this board wider, and hopefully if we stack up enough synergies, eventually we can start shredding him for just 1 point of life at a time with Havoc Jester and Witch's Cauldron. Something like that. Rise of Extus to go ahead and exile our indestructible Brash Taunter. Well, that stops that fun train, but we've still got decent blocks with our 5/5s. So they don't have a good attack just yet. I think we're just passing here. We need to make sure we can stop all the Naeth damage that could come out. Masked Vandal gonna get rid of our Witch's Cauldron. Plus it counts as a wolf, so it gets to fight the Forsworn Paladin. Well, I guess we sacked the Paladin. I could also buff the Paladin so that it would trade with the Masked Vandal, but I'm not too scared about them having a 1/3. So I think I would rather draw a card off of the Forsworn Paladin than have it trade for Vandal, because either way it's going to die. And this way we actually draw 2, because we draw a card off of the Harvester of Souls as well, which is cool. There's Terramorphic Expanse. If we're going to draw land at this point in the game, that's the best land to draw. Dealing a damage when we sacrifice it. Timeless Witness returns a card from the grave to hand. Return like a Rise of Extus and just keep exiling our stuff. That looks like the play. Well, we can kill a Timeless Witness when we sacrifice our Terramorphic Expanse, but that'll just open them up to being able to eternalize it as a 4/4, and then returning a card from their grave to hand again, so I don't actually want to kill that, even though I could. Seasoned Pyromancer. Well, Bloodbraid Marauder isn't blocking, and it's not cascading, so we'll discard that and get an Elemental. And then I guess discard a Swamp as well, just to draw 2 here. We hit Blood Artist and Soul Seer. Blood Artist could really help us find a way out here. Soul Seer is solid. That can get rid of Neath. I don't really want to play Blood Artist until they've cast their Rise of Extus, because Blood Artists can definitely find a way to try to finish them this game. So I think I'm just going to play Terramorphic, hold it, because whenever I crack it I do 1 damage, but crack it by the time it comes back to our turn, and then we'll play Blood Artist and hold Soul Seer up. Some good draws for sure. So I think that they're probably going to Rise of Extus and exile our Harvester of Souls here. And that is the play. Good deal. I do think Harvester of Souls was our best creature, but Havoc Jester's still pretty good. Especially with Blood Artist around as well. If we draw any sacrifice outlets, those cards in conjunction can really shred our opponent's life total. So I don't feel it's the end of the world. And a Sithis harvests hand from our opponents. If they play any enchantments, they'll be gaining life and drawing cards, but they haven't cast any so far, and they're more than halfway through their deck, so I don't expect a boatload of enchantments from our opponent. So I'm feeling pretty okay. Alright, and they pass turn. I'm surprised they didn't attack with Timeless Witness, because it's just good if it ends up in their grave. I'm again just not going to kill it, because I don't want it in their grave, so I'm just going to shoot them for 1 here. Alright. Just a land. So we can cast Blood Artist. It's 3 mana to Soul Seer. I definitely want to do that before they go to combat, so they can't do the double their power, must be blocked thing. So we just do it right now, right? I think we do. Do I have anything else that needs me to discard cards outside of the Pyromancer? I don't think I do. So I think I just play the land. I guess I can just like bluff with it, but pretty inconsequential on Arena. Sure, I'll just hold it. I mean, we have multiple mana sinks on our lands, Hive of the Eye-Turn and Den of the Bugbear. So that's making me think we might just need 1,000,000 mana in a future turn, so it's probably pretty fine to just keep jamming out lands. So, I mean, our deck functions really well if we can just get the board state cluttered to where our opponent just does not ever want to attack. Because if we just sit here and keep staring at each other, my deck can just find ways to kill an opponent even if they have 1,000,000 blockers out. So I'm still feeling okay, but once they play their Fractal Summoning, if they play it big enough, like if they play anything big enough, they can definitely find something once they get a creature out that's bigger than a 5/5 to start trying to shred me here. Ooh, Heartfire Immolator is really nice. So Ironscale Hydra, if it would be dealt damage, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter on it, so it's just impossible to kill. Alright, well that is not good at all for us. I'm going to go ahead and slam down the land here. So Heartfire Immolator can get rid of Sithis. Sithis triggers when they cast, not when they enter the battlefield, so we can't like kill Sithis in response to them casting an enchantment. Interesting. They're at 11 here. We can also activate a land. We could activate Den of the Bugbear and just attack in just to get a creature dying for Blood Artist, I guess. Probably not worth it. Probably better just hold it up to activate one of those on blocks. Well, Ironscale Hydra gives them a way to keep chipping away at us without losing any creatures. That is a pretty big issue. Yeah, and that is just going to be the easy bake. Just slam in the Ironscale Hydra every turn. I think I just take a few hits from it before I start chump blocking it. Or at least one hit from it. Oh, you know what? I should have chump blocked it with my Seasoned Pyromancer because of the great graveyard effect to get 2 more creatures out of it. I'll definitely chump block with that next turn. Oh, Reaper's Talisman? That's absolutely massive. If a creature would deal combat damage to Ironscale Hydra. So Heartfire Immolator can kill that if we give it Death Touch. Oh yeah. Alright, let's just... Bazinga! Get in there, Immolator. Probably, yeah, just block with Timeless Witness here. They block with Timeless Witness and Thraben Inspector. Cool, I'm not going to actually let that die. I'm going to kill your Hydra. And I get to do 1 damage to any target, so I could kill Timeless Witness, but I'd rather do 1 damage to your face, and Blood Arts will do damage to your face. And Blood Arts will do damage to your face again. Look at all that just stacking up. Once things get operating here, they just don't stop. Throw the Talisman onto our Elemental now. We go for a chump block with our Seasoned Pyromancer this turn so we can get Elemental tokens next turn. They're down to 6. Every time any creature dies on either side of the board, they take another damage. We have a Minimus Containment they're going to throw onto the Reaper's Talisman. Fantastic draw for our opponent. Shuts off the Reaper's Talisman, gains them a life, and draws a card. First enchantment we've seen outside of Sithis from our opponent. When it enters the battlefield, return a permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. What do they get back with that? Daredevil Dragster, I guess? Yep, Daredevil Dragster back to hand with Disciple of the Sun. They attack with a 7/7/5/5. They're at 7 life here. And we definitely do that so we can get the elemental tokens out of the Pyromancer. They're at 7 life here. Every creature that dies damages them. So we do 1 damage with Pyromancer, they go down to 6. We can sack Reaper's Talisman with Havoc Gesture to put them down to 5. Do we trade Jester with Pelt Collector here? That'd be 2 more creatures dying, so Blood Arts would trigger 2 more times. So right now, they're going to go to 6. If that happens, they go to 4. put him to 3 if we sack Talisman. And then if I like top deck Unlicensed Disintegration, I get there, I guess. Probably not worth it on the like off chance that I top deck Unlicensed Disintegration. I think I just do this. I don't love that they have like a life linker now, but if we hold our 5/5 up, they might not even attack with it. Alright, we didn't hit Unlicensed Disintegration anyway, so... Get these elementals. Play this so that I have enough mana to activate a creature land with that treasure token. So that I have plenty of blocks still. They're at 6 life, so I just have to chump block 6 more times to get there. If they can't deal with Blood Artist. Or I guess if they attack with Disciple of the Sun, I'll have to kill that with Havoc Jester, and it'll take a little longer to kill them. I think I activate the Hive of the Eye Tyrant first if I'm going to be chump blocking, because it doesn't attack as well. Because Den of the Bugbear, being able to attack as 2 separate creatures is really good when we have cards triggering every time something dies. And Menace doesn't really matter when their board is so wide, so I think I'll be chump blocking with Hive of the Eye Tyrant eventually, before I chump block with Den of the Bugbear. Our opponent definitely has a lot of options as well. They have at least the Daredevil Dragster, and then having to decide whether or not they want to attack and how much they want to attack. They have a treasure, or not a treasure, a clue token. They could sack to draw a card, but they might be worried about milling out before me. They already have less cards in library than I do, so probably just sack the clue token if they're looking to draw. I think they really just need to find removal, so I think just let their Timeless Witness die and pick up Rise of Exodus to blow up Blood Artist is their best line. I'm at a low enough life total now that if they keep attacking with Timeless Witness, it's going to be a little hard to keep letting it through, but that is pretty much my only option, because if they get to eternalize the Timeless Witness to bring back a removal spell, our Blood Artist plan is all over, and then they just start slamming in with the gigantic field. Looks like our opponent might have disconnected here, unfortunately. Alright, well, not a great way to end it there with our opponent disconnecting, but 7-1 being a great record to end it on for sure. And yeah, I'm going to assume that our last opponent didn't rope us. They probably disconnected there, because they were still in a good position if they can get their Timeless Witness to ever activate. I would do everything that I possibly could to prevent that from happening, but yeah, that's all they need to switch the game right around. Either way, 7 wins and 1 loss here are going to be the maximum number of wins we can get out of this event. 6,000 gold and 3 cards, 2 rares and an uncommon not in standard. Let's see what our prizes are today. Some gems, a Spectral Sailor, and our mythic rare Palladium Moors, the Ruiner from M19. One of the really cool brand new versions of the classic Elder Dragons from way back when, back in, like Legends, very early on in Magic's history. So these are really cool. Was super sweet to see them bring back the original iconic Elder Dragons of Elder Dragon Highlander lore. So some great prizes there. And overall, had a pretty fun time in the Tinkerer's Cube draft event. I will definitely be doing plenty more of these drafts. So if you want to see more of those, just stick around on the channel right where you're at. And with that all said, that is going to end today's video. So as always, thank you all very much for watching, especially if you made it to the end here. I know that my My commentary and my lines might not have been perfect this time around, but we still make it with an interesting, well, not that interesting of a deck, Rakdos Sacrifice, kind of a classic strategy, but either way, a good run there, 7-1 to start off the Tinker's Cube drafts, and I'll be back again real soon with some more of these, and we'll see what other spicy concoctions we can build. So I'll see you all very soon for some more Magic Arena.